All right, guys. James and I have been really talking about the way, if I've gotten my debrief in the last few days and understanding cricket at a movement level, I think I've got a really good picture. And James has made sure my eyes got on a few different things. Number one, part of being in the functional space is I've always had to put on a show. And what I do behind the scenes is way more than what I do in the show. But right now, if I had to get in front of a big group of cricket coaches, is I would quickly relate most of the problems they deal with, from nagging injuries to bad movement patterns to people who just can't get technique right, or to people who just can't do the same thing on the left and right side of their body. I'd sum it all up into all the functional pieces that allow that to happen, we can capture in a very short amount of time, and we want you to see exactly how we're doing it. So we're just going to put a little functional squeeze, a submission hole on all the things that would be a physical barrier to skill acquisition. Learn to use the language that way because the competition can't keep up. This is the show. We simply go out and get some cricketers. Close your eyes, open your eyes. We're going to look at your balance. 20 seconds open, 10 seconds closed. What are you going to see? A predominance, even in good athletes, of eyes closed wobbliness. That means the sprains, the strains, the previous injuries they've had on their lower body, plus the amount of inappropriate tone, too tense in the quads, dump forward posture. All that is going to enable them to have worse balance with eyes closed. They're great athletes, visually dependent, eyes open, I can fake it, eyes closed, I'm not listening to my feet. That's what we know when this test goes, and we're going to get about 50% of any room, if not more, at least posting a balance problem on one side, maybe both. We're going to ask them to rotate, and then just imagine me doing half kneeling right now, this knee all the way on the ground, and all I'm going to do is rotate toward the knee that's up, okay? When my hip is bent 90 degrees, my lumbar spine is locked up to about L3 or 4. So this is a great representation of the T-spine. And we've got some videos in turning the stick with your arms out and then going hands overhead and turning the stick. Basically, when the arms are involved, you should have a full 90-degree turn. And when I take the arms out, you should at least have half of that distance covered. And once again, just like we're comparing the ratio of your balance to your eyes closed balance, we're comparing the relation of your sloppy rotation to your real rotation that's coming from the powerhouse. Coaches can see this so much that they want to see you do the test, but then these are tests they can do to assist you. The next one, standing long jump, FCS, arms in, arms out. We can have, once again, a discussion about, are you using your body as a full unit, or are you trying to do upper body day and lower body day separately? Because if we train them that way, that's the way they move sometimes. And that's the way the competition trains. The last one is a throw, but it's not the kind of throw they're going to think we're going. It's actually a shot put from the left and right side, but it's a test that we've been doing where we stand and go down the line, but really the movement is done once again with rotation and a push. So we're not throwing the ball this way, we're pushing it up. But huge left and right deficits here too. If you've been checking off left and right problems all the way down the list, you already explained that. And if you haven't checked off any left and right differences, you haven't explained that. It's probably a coordination and timing issue. Either way, every one of these things, cricketers, balance, rotate, jump, and throw, each represents a degree of athleticism that a cricketer can be working on. Now, that's the show. We want to go in down and dirty and do this. Can I do it on people who haven't had Symmio or a screen yet? Yeah, I probably could. Because the way I'm going to explain to each person, and by the way, this is behind the curtain. That's the show. This is the workshop. Because backstage, if you're my screen team and we're getting ready to take over this team, we're talking broken, breaking, and balanced. And if you want another category than that, you're going to overcomplicate it. If they're already in pain, they are broken. So we should have a contingency plan and somebody making sure that's good. If we don't have a physio and it is pain, but it's not that bad, follow the rules of SFMA and simply don't chase the pain. Work on the DNs, work on the lifestyle, work on the education, recheck the pain. You know what pattern hurts and you already graded it. Now, my plan of attack is going to be test. And so if you can see over here, I've already done some of the data collection that I'll need over here. So a lot of times the way we collect the data, people get redundant, they turn around and collect the data again. You don't have to. You can collect it out of order. The database doesn't know, as long as it's safe. Now, if we got Symmio coming in, I divide and conquer and I eat this elephant one bite at a time, because out of Symmio comes what? My group in pain, who we want to get some degree of checkout. And if we don't have a physio on staff that day, it's okay, because we've got a scored top tier, which we're calling the functional readiness screen now. So we can take somebody through that. We'll also have people with dysfunction. The cool thing about Symmio is we simply want the coaches to know we want to see people 70 and above. So here's my 1-2 play right here. If a player comes in and they've done Symmio and we did this cool little functional squeeze on your cricketers, anybody below 70 probably has a reason for this. We're not going to think they're unfit. They might not have a good state of risk or readiness. So all I'm saying is, if I had a group that was good enough to do Symmio before they came in, and they were scoring below 70 on their functional wellness, no wonder you're checking off bad. The kids that are actually above 70 on their wellness and scoring low are just deconditioned and unfit. And we know what to do there. But the kids who are posting low scores over here and they're below 70, they have something wrong, and we got to find that needle in the haystack, and we're going to make them seem like we're geniuses. But Symmio sets us up to do a functional readiness screen, which for all practical purposes is an FMS without a kit or a scored SFMA. No need for a breakout. We're going to get what I would call our dysfunctions that are low threshold right here. A high threshold movement in my mind is a lunge or a push-up. Those are hard for people to do. We can find most of the risk factors that are keeping them back before we even get there. But this is about a 4-minute investment. The camera can help you a little bit, especially if we start getting videos of it. They get through it quick. You can learn to score this exceptionally well. It should line up and agree with Symmio, but also enhance value, double checking their input and reaffirming what we all agree on. Here is what a lot of people skip over. And I think if I don't get involved with a lot of things, we don't realize this is where FMS can shine beyond anybody else. When I'm looking at a movement control screen, you got to realize I just cut my own movement screen in half. I did a self version up here and I did an abbreviated version right here, and you haven't even broken out the FMS kit, and you've already got enough information to put somebody on flows and tension dumps right away. They can already start programming. But if you really want to start getting into functional strength recommendations, then a motor control screen with the kit, and the reason I emphasize the kit and don't proxy it is because we got hard data saying you're right if you know how to do it, and everybody else is guessing. And the minute we don't have that metric, we really do have a loss of reproducibility. And we don't want that, because when you take a balance test down to the quarter or half inch, you can see where you're making gains before they change the score in any other test. So, and once again, I haven't found a better squeeze than the inline lunge. So let me just throw something out. This movement control screen is the first quarter of SCS, upper and body motor control screen. But if you do an inline lunge right here, I think you can avoid the carry unless you want to do the carry, meaning if the carry means postural integrity under load and the inline lunge means postural integrity under load, then both are vetting the same thing. The only thing I would add here, if you really knew you wanted to juice some upper body and needed an excuse to do that, a flexed arm hang is a great proxy for a carry, and we got that time limit for you. So if there's a pull-up bar there, that's one more piece of data that sort of feeds this movement control space. Everybody skips over this and jumps into power. I would recommend we don't until we got enough data that says let's delete it, modify it, or change it. But I don't think you'll ever regret, because this is the one station that gives us that quick GPS on why strength is holding and why it's not. Motor control also fluctuates because it's highly balance dependent. So if somebody has injury or is dehydrated or sick or has off time, coming back through this and posting their old scores is a good way to say they're right back in track. This is also the motor control screen. This is where we'd make sure the shoulder was clear and we'd get a good ankle clearing right here. So my point is, if all we got through the first day was Symmio and the readiness screen and just started dumping tension and stuff, that's good. If they want to come in and do something right away, we've already got the balance test done, so we can skip the balance test when we get over here. If you do it right, if you do this just to proof of concept, make sure it's done by the book over here because it'll carry a score. The rotation, that is not a test in the screen, but it looks an awful lot like an inline lunge, which must be scored. This is just a quick breakdown to help them see that the best way to get an athlete power and rotation is to first free up rotation, not just train power. Lastly, we got to screen that power. Well, hell, we already started over here because we've got a jump, arms in and out, and we've got a throw that we're doing. What else would we do here? We got to get ground contact time. That's what our sort of single leg energy storing test is. The amount of time that foot is on the ground does give us the break point. Or we can do the jump. But I honestly think there's a sensor out there or an app out there at the time where if we set up a hop, skip, jump, and we want the secondary loads, we want first jump, hang time, off that foot and go as far as you can, that's the best way to juice contact off this. And if that contact is above a certain amount of time, they cannot put energy in and restore it. The energy already got dumped, so they already lost the fascial tension they could have used. And that means they just got slow working plyometric reflexes. But basically here, jump, throw, and contact time. So if we were to imagine getting this when they come in, we got them engaged and the coaches engaged. Now what we got to do is figure out how can we get the rest of this populated in time and who should we prioritize? And if they got Symmio, we already got that. But Symmio plus this, remember my play. Those above 70 can be considered deconditioned. Those below 70, and pour over here, should be communicated to coaches unprepared. I'm not saying it's willing or not listening, but they're not even ready to be tested because they're not at homeostasis. So basically the only way I'm going to call somebody broken is that they're in pain. And we do not need to amplify that problem anymore. We need to start explaining it right away. Breaking is literally posting some risk factors and having multiple dysfunctions. We already put a number on them, and if they're below 70, without intervention, there's a good chance that number is going to continue going down as reps and stress, competition and tests go up. Balanced doesn't mean they're a great athlete and doesn't mean they're perfect on anything. It means they're above the cut, they're twos on everything, no asymmetries. And that's the platform where we start reaching in and saying, all right, if performance coaches, if we want to add something, let's make sure we don't upset the balance we found. And that's where I see a lot of times people start training and there were a few balanced people in the room and now we start breaking them for all the right reasons because we're not watching the thing. So once again, that gives me all the information I need to stress them about certain things and impress them with a quick turnaround. But I find out what I'm going to do for those things sort of right in here, this middle ground right here. The power tests very much remain the same, but it's using the motor control screens, reading how they do with the lunge, looking at these top tier patterns where we really make visual adjustments. So now we can base team-wide warm-ups and flows on the way the profile of the team went, but we can also assign people different modules to do, whether we've got them doing more strength stuff with a kettlebell or weights, whether we're doing more flows and tension dumps over here, just flossing off the crap movement they've had, or we're dumping into functional power. And remember, guys, less is more. Everybody's trying to train power, reveal it. We're stripping off the junk, reveal power. How do we do that? In fresh packages of explosion done with good technique. So while everybody else is trying to grind power out of them, we're going to polish power back into them. And that's sort of the way we do it. So being able to get over here and really, really stress yourselves as coaches to change these numbers real quick. First thing is, you could change those numbers in a day if you're working with a small group, and that's all it takes to buy a coach in for a season. But then watching these numbers across the season and making sure they understand why each of these stations means a functional squeeze on the things that would limit developing cricket skill.